Yes, well, thank you very much. It's sort of a surprising position for me to take the last word. As people know, I never jump into that position voluntarily. But anyway, it was very nice to be invited this time. Yeah, I guess I got to start with the end notes, and there is the big thanks to the people that have put this conference together. I think it's been for me, an incredibly rewarding conference, but it only happens because it's been brought together. And so, particularly to Anna Hughes, who's led the whole thing, but also Lucy Barnes, who's been major number two. And then there's been a bunch of Sue and Tom and Holly and Kira, and there's been a whole committee that have come along as well. And also Claire, who's not here. She had better things to do, I understand. So she had twins about a week ago, and seems to think that's an excuse for not attending the conference. So thank you so much. So I'd like everybody, please, to put a hand together for... It's also, I guess, coming towards the end of two projects, the COPEM project and the OBF project, and it gives us a time to just stop there. And neither of those projects would have been possible without funding. And two funders stepped up and took a real risk, which are Arcadia and the RED Fund, Research England Development Fund. And they came in with a bunch of academics who said, we got some ideas here and we'd like to try and put a few things together. And we've got no experience pretty much in any of these areas, but believe us, we can really do this. And they did it. They took the risk. And I think we've achieved a lot, and we'll go back and think about that. But taking risks with funding is not easy. And so I really appreciate both of the funders for the trust that they've had to be able to come in and say, okay, give it a go. And, this is what we did. So thank you to the funders. So, yeah, thank you. And then I'd also just like to put in a couple of things. These projects are big, and they're beasts, and they're administratively a nightmare. And both projects have been led fantastically. The first one by Janneke Demmer, who was backed up by Toby Steiner, who's up in the back there somewhere. And the second one by Joe DeVille, who was backed up by Claire McGann and very recently Super. And so, running these things through university administrations is really difficult. Running it through university administrations when you've got a bunch of people who want everything to be different, who say, you know what, open means I don't want to use Microsoft Teams. It means that I really do like this open source program that's come from whatever. And you need your IT department to include that. And the IT department says, but does it satisfy this or that? It is a nightmare. And then you're dealing with, publishers and small entities that don't have accounting departments and don't do all the things coming through, and you've got to chase those up. And then you're dealing with a bunch of individuals who say, as I said before, who just say, I want to do it differently. Thank you very much. I've got some sort of frustration against being told what to do. And so you try and tell 20 people who don't want to be told what to do, and it's a challenge. So I'd really like to thank the four of them very much indeed as well for bringing us together. And then, not quite finally, I'll keep doing some things, but I've been incredibly impressed by the 2 days of conferences, by the panels that we've had, by the engagement that the panels have had with really difficult issues that they've taken on honestly and directly. And And also with the engagement of everybody with the panels. And I'd really like to thank the panelists for putting the time in, putting the effort in, thinking about what they were going to say and how to engage with the community, and bringing such interest into the last 2 days. So yeah, can we give a round of applause to all the panelists? So then it comes to the point of, okay, so what did I take from it all? What's my take? And who cares what my take is? But anyway, I've been asked to say something. So here's my take. And I've got thoughts. That's all I can do. I'm not going to be able to articulate anything big and grand. But I've got thoughts, and some of the thoughts start with the last 2 panels. Actually, we've heard today right now, the importance of inclusiveness, about what agency means, or having control over one's own research, one's own knowledge, about the engagement of that. We've heard the panels talking about the importance of communities in engaging with scholarship, and about exchanging ideas, and about experimenting with new thoughts. And, I don't know what scholarship is if it isn't communities getting together, engaging with new thoughts, new ways of thinking, new processes by which to articulate it. So that, I think it's important to remember, that's the heart of, I think, everything that we're trying to do. That's what's important to me, and that's what we need, and I think we want to protect, we want to ensure continues. And now, we've heard about AI, and I don't know what AI is going to do. But you know what? If it prevents me from engaging with Julian about his ideas, if it prevents me from being able to sit with a group and understand what they're thinking and how they're thinking, and for them to have the ability to, try and tell me something, that's really, really, really important. And we've got lots of things of, we've got other processes out there, and you can publish in lots of different ways. But if we have a system in place that prevents communities from engaging with each other and being discovered to be engaged by other people around the world, if we have a system that prevents that, then we're in a really, really bad place. So, you can have these big publishers, and you can have AI, and you can have these things. But we've got to protect the ability for communities to communicate, and for those ideas and thoughts to be disseminated. And so that's what I think we've got to remember. That's what we're here. That's what the whole thing is about. And then the rest is periphery. How do we do that? But we've got to think about how do we do that? Where does it go? So, myself and my own sort of adventures in publishing, which started with Alessandra and I, having discussions in Exeter University campus, which is where we were at the time, saying, these legacy publishers are pretty bad. They're not doing what we want to do. They're not making things open. And so it was a real frustration with legacy publishers that made us think, what we've got to do something different. And at that stage, I was really frustrated with legacy publishers. And then we said, okay, what, we can do something. We're based, we're at the time, although we were in Exeter campus when we had the discussion, at the time we were based in Cambridge. What can we do? Here we are. We're Cambridge scholars, and we're if it's not us, who? Somebody's got to do something. If it's not us, who? And at that stage, I was frustrated with publishing, with publishers. My frustrations grew as we came along. We started realizing that nobody could get our books. And then we're able to meet with other publishers that were in the same boat, and we collectively could grumble. And collective grumbling is really empowering, because then you can say, it's not just me that can't do all of this. There's a bunch of us that can't do it. And if we got together a little bit, we could do something else, and we can collectively achieve something. And so then we went from grumbling about publishers to grumbling about infrastructures. And at the same time, when I was grumbling originally about, the Elsevier's and the digital sciences of the world, they were just publishers. And about the mid-10s, they started buying up all the things in between. The whole research cycle started getting... And so at the same time as I was being worried about infrastructures, they were buying up the infrastructures. So I got even more worried about them. And next moment they're controlling not only the output, but all the infrastructures in between. And so, so we then, there's a group of us, and, Joe showed it before, a group of us saying, look, well, what can we do? How we can do something to try and free up the infrastructures from community control. And that's, I think, with COPEM, the whole COPEM thing has come, not just infrastructures, but experimental publishing. How do we collectively improve that? How do we collectively improve archiving and preservation? How do we collectively improve dissemination? All of these things we can get together and do. And I think to some extent we've made some progress in that, as have other initiatives around the world. We've got operas in Europe. We've got agencies as we've heard about. We've got Cello Books. We've got all the networks in Mexico and Latin America that we're hearing about. So there's lots of these movements that are going on around the world that are trying to free up those infrastructures, trying to create new infrastructures. But then I guess the frustration now has grown some more, because we've got the open infrastructures, and we're up against university funding things and institutional vets and so now we let's get frustrated about something else. But there's a couple of things that that we're already going to shove me up into. So I don't mean shove me up. So with that infrastructure, but it was like 5 years ago, I was at a conference with Joe DeVille here, who introduced me to the concept of infrastructure as a verb. Infrastructure is one thing. Infrastructure really is something else indeed. And it's the process. You can have infrastructure, but then if you're going to get social change, a change in infrastructure will change society, and a change of society is going to change the infrastructure. But making social change is tough. Making institutional change is tough. And what we have seen is that all of these things change in a crisis. So COVID came along. You know what? Institutions suddenly found different ways of doing things rapidly. So things can change, but they need a crisis. So I realized that actually my role in life is to create crisis. And so, and also one of the nice things, I was asked today by somebody. They said, "So, are the arguments the same?" So, have we been saying the same thing for 15 years? To some extent, we had. To some extent, we want a different ecosystem. We want an ecosystem that can do the openness that we've been hearing about, and we don't have it. And we started with, we've got to get some access publishers, and everybody said, well, you can't do open access publishing books, because we've been doing it for 600 years, and we know that you can't do it open access. And the really nice thing about an existence proof, as I was saying before, for an existence proof, you need a single data point. Those I can come by. Single data points. So can we get an open access publisher up? Yes. Can we get lots of open access publishers up? Yes. Can we have a panel that debates about the lack of growth of scholarly publishing? Yes. Wow, that's a real achievement. We've gone from nothing to, you know what, acceleration is decreasing. You know, that's huge movement. That's huge development. We can go from let's be worried about the lack of open access publishing to let's worry about open infrastructures. And now we can move a step forward and say, well, we've got open infrastructures, we've got open access publishers, they need open infrastructures. We've got open infrastructures, they need funding. Ha-ha, we've got a crisis. Yeah, we've got a crisis for libraries. We should celebrate that. We should really engage that. And we should enhance that, because that's how we get change. And the fact that we've got to the point that libraries can say we're in a crisis, that's real movement. That's where because we can't get change, I don't think, until we cause a crisis. And so we've made, I think, a long way, because the crisis has shifted. We've got the crisis to move along, and we're not going to get where we want to be until every point along the place has said, damn it, I give up. You win, okay? Or at least there's a solution. And now the crisis, before we were saying to the vice chancellors of this or that or the other, you know, it's in your mandate that you should have open scholarship. And they would come back and say, but what do I do? Yeah, so where's the open? And, well, you could pay lots of money to these guys. No, but, you know, where's the open? And now we can say, you know, it's here. It's right there. We've got solutions for you. What you've got to do is engage with them. And you can engage with them. And we've heard libraries saying, you know what? We've got to get into the rooms. We've got to bring in this large thing. We've got to bring the crisis into the rooms where the decisions are being made. And we've got to give everybody the ammunition to be able to get in the room and make the crisis, make the case for the crisis, and make the case for an easy solution. And going from 0 to 1, as we heard early on, that's the difficult step. That's an infinite improvement. We talk about scaling. You go from 0 to 1, that's a big change. But that 1, you know, we've got to think about how we get that 1 in the room, because once we've got 1, we'll get 2, and we work it through. Okay, so how long have I got? 2 minutes. That's not very long. Okay, so I will use up all 3 of them. Crisis. There we go. I'm in a time crisis. Okay, so how did we get there? How did we get here? One of the things that got me was all these pictures of not just me getting older, but there were lots of pictures and lots of cases where it was just a little small group that got together and did something, and that something led to something else, and that something led to something else. You know, how do we get there? We start small, and we've got this impression of this really important concept of scaling small. But you know what? Starting small is the first bit of scaling small, and appreciating small and understanding small is the first bit of that. Everybody got where we are by 4 or 5 people getting around and saying, we can make a difference. If not us, who? And stepping up and doing something. Okay, so where are we going? Well, there's a lot to do. There's crises to have. There's lots of things. There's crises to generate. There's solutions to be found. There's groups of us together in this room. In this room, we have scholars, we have publishers, we have infrastructure providers, we have funders, we have people from pretty much the entire world. Anna Hughes created a little map for me, but I didn't get time to put it on. But I mean, how many were there? There was something like 60 different countries represented in the conference today. Yeah. So we've got in this room, in this conference right now, if you just look at yourselves, hold the mirror up, we can't say who's going to do this. Because if it's not us in this room today, who the hell is it? And so there's my challenge now. And, you know, we talk about, okay, where is COPAM going? I don't know where COPAM is going. COPAM now has to, in my opinion, has to be the infrastructuring It's now got to be picked up. The infrastructure's there. It's got to be taken by different communities. Those communities are going to start off being 4 or 5 people that say, you know what, we could get together. We've got a collective problem. Let's solve. Simon Baines said, you know, start small. And I really agree with that. Start small. What I disagree with, Simon, you said, but don't have your ambitions high. Now, there I disagree. Have your ambitions to the roof, but start small and work there. Start on the achievables. So, I was going to set some homework. You know, you've come here today for the last 2 days. You've given your time. Now I want your thoughts. What should COPEM be? How are you going to tackle what you've learned, what COPEM has produced? We've got websites there to look at. We've got resources. We've got infrastructures. We've got workbooks. We've got compasses. We've got all sorts of stuff out there. How can that be used by your little group to cause some mischief, to cause a crisis, or no, to take it through and resolve a problem, just a local problem? And then that's what COPEM, I hope, will be. It will be a spawn. It's not the end notes, it's the preface. We've got a preface now. How are you going to take it? And so I'm going to I'm now generating something that I don't think any of the organizers do. But there is going to be something going out at some stage saying what you think of the conference. What I would like is within sort of a couple of weeks or something, have a thought and come back and tell us what you would like to do with the resources that we've got, what we can do with our resources to enable something. And if we can get, I've had half a dozen discussions today, in the last 2 days, with new initiatives spawning up, ideas that we can bring together. So why not think about that, send it in as part of that questionnaire, and then we can think, what can we do with COPEM to enable what you're asking us to do with it? Okay, so that's it. Once again, I want to thank everybody for their engagement, the discussion, the involvement, and the COPEM team for being a great team to work with. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rupert Crisis Gatti. Now we know what your plan the whole time has been. Why didn't you tell us? You had 6.5 years. You could have told us that was your plan all along, although I should have guessed. I want to thank Rupert. I mean, of course, as I said at the very beginning of this work has many, many genealogies, but I think Rupert has played a huge role in so many of those parts of the genealogies. It's connected to everything. A spider almost, but in a very, very good way. Very, very encouraging way. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Rupert. And yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for so many of you staying 2 days. I mean, it's not an easy task. Very practically, there's a QR code. We have a new list. So this is also a further way to stay in touch. It's a discussion. You know, we can have debates. We can talk about our local crises. We can talk about how we're going to address some of the problems that we encounter in our individual contexts as well. So yeah, please do sign up to there is that way in which we can keep communicating in the face of so many pressures, as Rupert was saying, that sometimes prevent forms of communication that we think are most important. So we're at time. Thank you so much, everyone. I believe, there'll be little local plans, just for a little drink and so on. And I've got some waving to my right. So I will pass on to Lucy.
Thanks, Joe. It was only one last thank you, which may have already been said, but it bears repeating. Thanks to Dipesh and Fran and everyone at Loughborough for being fantastic hosts to us as well.
Thanks to everyone who joined online as well. Thanks to everyone who's hung around online as well. Thank you so much.